Welcome to Factorio Friday Facts. My name is Nilaus and this is the reaction video for the latest Friday Factorio Facts number 409, Diminishing Beacons. There have been a number of these Friday Facts that I have not reacted to because they've been sort of about the music, about some optimization, and I don't really feel that I have something to weigh in on for those topics. But this is definitely a topic that's been near and dear to my heart, so beacons is definitely something that deserves a reaction video and a response video. Already a lot of people have come to my Twitch chat and asked me, oh, what do you think? Oh, is it a disaster? Is it great? Is it awesome? So here it is. This is my reaction video for my reaction to what is it's coming in Space Age. First of all, I think it's great that they are reviewing it because it's something that was a problem in it is a problem in the way that beacons work. They are great, and but it's particularly great for scaling up because they lower the amount of active entities in the game, and that's a good thing. But this is the problem. It is super boring. And if I look at my own blueprints, then all of my endgame blueprints are just rows of beacons, and then there are assemblers in the middle and inserters and then belts and then some kind of combination of going in and out between them. But it's super boring. It's basically like these builds, and they're fun to design, but once you have that, it's great to tile it because you just paste it next to each other, but it does ultimately get a little bit boring because they all look the damn same. So something's got to give, and that something is a good opportunity to do that for Space Age. So I think I really like that what they've considered is that they've considered the different options. I have been playing space exploration. By the way, I have stopped playing space exploration. Don't expect any more space exploration content on my channel. That's a different side, but ultimately I didn't find it fun to continue that. So that's been put on pause. So what the Factorio content you can expect on my channel will be these reviews and maybe some base reviews and that kind of thing as we approach the Space Age DLC. Now, the idea that I liked from space exploration, I liked a lot of ideas, but one of the particular ones was to change the beacons so that instead of many beacons, it would be one beacon. And the beacon overload meant that you can only have a machine being affected by a single beacon. And I thought that was great. On the other hand, and what they also highlight here is that this is great, but it just leads into a new kind of standard. There's a new standard that arises, and I even said that in my game. So it's like, oh, let's build a standard build, which is just a beacon that is very powerful, affecting 8 assemblers, and then that's just it. Then you build it, and then you realize after a little bit of time that, okay, now it has just evolved from being a standard that looks like this to a standard that looks like that. Nothing else has changed. It doesn't lead to more creativity. It doesn't lead to anything else. It just leads to a different kind of design. This is slightly better, but it's not like a massive shift. So that didn't really do enough, and I really appreciate that, because from my perspective, I was looking at the two options and said the space exploration version is definitely better. So if those are my options, go with the space exploration. But I also really like that they also acknowledge that it might be better, but it's not fundamentally changing the layout challenges or the design challenges. So then it becomes like these silly things with space exploration. And here's the thing: there's something that they're mentioning two people, space exploration speedrunners. Can you just say masochist in a different word? Pfft, God damn it. Wow. But anyway, you do you. No kink shaming on from my part about your masochism expressed as space exploration speedrunning. Whew. Another option they were looking at was the built-in beacons, and yeah, I don't think that's a good idea either. It's super boring, and it just means better modules basically. The thing with that is it also means that you don't have to redo your design, and there's a certain charm to having your starter designs, your mid-game designs, and your end-game designs. And if you just plop down some beacons inside the machines, then it doesn't really do anything. On top of that, you also have the part that this is what quality does. Quality can just make the existing build better by making them faster, better, higher productivity, all that good stuff. So it already is achieved through quality, so that isn't really a solution that would work. And it just looks really silly, to be perfectly honest, with this mod. So, I mean, that's a mod. Mod limitations, kind of evident and not relevant because this is not a mod. So let's talk a bit about the solution instead, what they came up with. And I really like that they did is they considered many aspects, not just sort of, oh, we have to get rid of the existing design problem, the boringness, the The fact that if you looked at the base, it was just 80% beacons in the end game, and that's just kind of boring. Maybe not 80, but 60% beacons and 40% everything else, and that's not a good design philosophy, I think. And it seems like they were agreeing. But on the other hand, beacons are so instrumental to scaling up that you kind of need to do something there. So anyway, but they didn't want to change the current system to something else that was just basically the same, just looking a little bit different. They were thinking about quadratic or diminishing returns. I think that's a great idea. They want to have beacons being more impactful. I think that's a great idea. When, for example, you look at some pump jacks and they're not really performing, and you put down a beacon and it goes like, okay, so a beacon with 2 speed modules affecting 2 locations isn't really doing much. Then you have to have 2 beacons with 2 modules in to have it even affect the 2 other 2 machines, which means that it's just, in that case, it's cheaper, easier to just put speed modules in the pump jacks. So by having them, the transmission efficiency go up, it's actually going to mean that if you want to speed something up, it's better to put down a beacon, even for a single machine, in terms of sort of raw output. So modules are better spent in beacons than they're spent in machines. That, I think, is interesting. So I think that's really good. And the last one was they wanted to make sure that quality also have an impact, which I think is obvious since you go with quality. But I also think that it's a great idea that you have beacons actually benefiting from quality. So higher effect transmission is a great way to implement the quality. And it also means that if you're looking at scaling up something, you have the choice of, do I add better modules? Do I add more beacons, or do I add better quality beacons or better quality modules? So it's really good to have different options, and that makes it less obvious which one is the better. And it means that your base might differ from my base because you have access to something else. I have spent more effort into upgrading the quality of my beacons, or you've been spending more on the quantity of your modules, and therefore we might choose different options for getting the same result. And I think that's good because it opens up the design space, and I think that's always good. The effect transmission being a square root is both good and bad. Now, this graph here was a little bit difficult to understand initially, for me at least. I was like, oh, colors 1.1, 1.2, what is that? But anyway, the blue one is how it works currently. And that's just the effect. And it's very straightforward, which is good. And that's a benefit. But let's be honest, since the assemblers are speed 1.25, then multiplying that by 8.5 is still icky, right? And then you start putting productivity in, and then it gets decreased, and then it becomes some odd numbers anyway. So you're gonna need a mod like what's it called, rate calculator or something like that, or a little calculator next to it to calculate the actual speed and the actual production per second. So we're kind of not really changing anything now. It adds up with different ratios. So what they've done is they've also been looking at existing bases, which was something I didn't even consider. And I really like the fact that they're sort of saying, if you want to take your existing designs, they will work in space age. They might not be ideal, but they will work. And what they've done is they look at the 8 modules, that is 6% faster, and the 12 module builds are 13% slower. I think that makes sense. It's great. It's a little bit of impact, but it's also a very small impact. Now, with regards to small impact, I think it's too small of an impact in terms of really just seeing an impact. Of course, if you look at the stats, so with one beacon, it has 500, or it has 300, it's 3 times as effective, which is amazing. So one beacon is very much more effective, and then it drops down, and it sort of crosses at 9 beacons, which no one really does, I think. But then upwards to 12, we start seeing diminishing returns, which then again will be compensated heavily. Now it says legendary, and we won't just have legendary beacons floating around, but it's definitely something to strive for, and it has the potential to be extremely fast for a 16 build, or even 16 module builds, which will only happen for foundries and for electromagnetics and for the other new buildings that we haven't seen yet, for the 2 other remaining planets, I guess, right? There must be other new buildings coming there. So I think that this is good that they included for, they consider existing builds that they're not going to be completely broken. If there was a change to the space exploration way with beacon overload, then it would be completely broken. And I don't think that, I mean, you're going to have to break something. It's an expansion. So break it, move on. But, you know, I think it's nice to sort of adhere to this, since they also want to sort of be able to add and remove the different builds or the different parts of the expansion separately. Like maybe you don't want to play with quality, then disable quality, that kind of thing. I don't know why, but, you know, disable biters maybe. So I think this is good, and it shows that there's something to strive for in terms of upgrading to legendary status on legendary beacons. Definitely something we want to go for. And there are some impacts. I think that this is an interesting one in terms of spaceships, where you have one beacon in the middle and then as many machines around it, cluttered around it, and those machines around it will be all affected by the very high ratio of efficiency modules. So efficiency modules might actually be very valuable on spaceships, for example. I don't think they'll be valuable anywhere else, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I don't have any, I don't have any clue about it, because you can also say space or solar panels could also be better. I don't know. This solar panel is not better, it seems. So here's a really interesting build. This is the first time we see something that looks very much like Endgame. You can see that legendary beacons, legendary everything is legendary here, which is, okay, maybe a little bit overdone. And you see fully stacked belts with the bulk inserters. That's amazing, right? Bulk inserters, we love that name. And you can see the fully stacked belts here of plastics stacked 4 high. So I think this is an excellent example. I don't know if it's ideal. Well, I know it's not ideal. You could switch that to a module as well, or a beacon as well, if you really wanted to. But, you know, there's also some ratio thing, and we don't really know all about that. So this is interesting, and it's definitely looking like we can build a lot faster. So one of the things, like, we are sort of looking at megabase is 1,000 science per minute, and really striving for the highest is 10,000 science per minute. But I think 10,000 science per minute is going to be the norm in space age. It's also going to be interesting when it comes to science. Like, what the hell are we going to spend our science on? Because it's really boring just spending it on mining productivity. But that's a completely different matter that I hope they address. Conclusion-wise, that's on the implementation. But for me, my conclusion, I think it's great that they consider the existing builds. They make quality part of the solution, and they give that trade-off between different options. It is yet another subtle, maybe not subtle, but it's a change that is at least partially designed to make builds less standardized. And I think that's good. As a purveyor of standardized builds, I think it's a good move that Factorio, instead of saying the satisfactory way of saying we don't want to allow useful blueprints, then they go with, you can make all the blueprints you want, but we're going to give you so many different options and so many different variables that it's not really clear that this is going to be the ultimate product, or even the very final ultimate product is so far down the line with everything being legendary that it's not really relevant to most cases. So there's going to be a lot of the game, that's 99% of the game probably, is not going to be full legendary everything. That's not what, I don't think so, at least. So that means there are so many variations that you can't just download a standardized blueprint. You probably can, but and I'll be doing my best to make some standardized blueprints that can also be upgraded and higher quality and all that stuff. But I think it's great that they are making this this push towards making it less obvious what the perfect solution is. So kudos to them. I think it's a great explanation. I think it's a great change, and it's a great explanation of the thoughts going into this. So this is amazing. One more reason why we're looking forward to Space Age whenever it comes around. October, that's when we aim for it. So looking forward to it. Now let's hear some more about the new planets that we're still missing, and some more tech, and definitely also some more about the biters. That's something we really look forward to. Anyway, thank you very much. If you have some comments, something I missed, some other perspective on the new beacons, let me know in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys on maybe the next Friday Factorio Facts, maybe on one of the many other factory games here on the channel. Until then, take care and stay effective.